Okay. How are you guys doing tonight? Let me know if you can or can't hear me. I'm pretty sure I adjusted my volume before we started this, but let me see on the comments real quick just to down. A little bit of a new haircut, yeah. Thanks, Susan. How you doing? Do you can you hear me, Susan? Okay. Sight and sound are good. Good. Okay. So I know that we had a couple others that were going to join, so I'm just going to give it a few more minutes. Tonight, what I really want to focus on, and I think you guys saw it in the title of the video, is I really want to focus on a little bit of business and trust in business, and this group is for working professionals that are trying to break free from a little bit of that maybe corporate handcuffs that you have on right now, and figure out kind of our own path. But I just want to walk through just the basics of building trust as far as it relates to business. We'll talk a little bit about personal, but mostly the personal examples we'll use tonight will tie in with the business. So let me give it a couple more minutes to see who all's coming, and we'll go from there. Maybe not a couple of minutes, maybe one more minute, because it is 8:30. It's past the hour, and I know your time's important as everybody else's. So let's just give it a little bit longer. Okay. So like I said, I got my marker ready to go, and I want to talk a little bit tonight about just what I talked about here, just the trust in the business and personal relationships. Now, the reason we want to focus on that is, as you know, this group is, for everyone out there, is focused on, okay. Yeah, the season, okay, that happened. Is it skipping? Is it skipping every couple seconds? Because when I was on your live, that was happening as well. It was like dragging or skipping. So I wonder if, okay. I'm not exactly sure. Okay, so it's skipping. Yeah, that's what I was getting on mine. So I wonder what's going on. I have a gigabyte, so I'm going to proceed forward. Just knock this out real quick. If it keeps happening though, let me know, and I guess I don't know what I can do in the middle of it. So sorry for the tech glitches, guys. I'm just checking on my live stream. So if you're getting a lot of drag, or if you're getting a little lag with the video, this will be reposted as the replay that you can go check out if you missed anything special. So I'm going to run forward. I did check my internet before this. I got my video cruising through really good, and we're going to go from there. So yeah, I'm just checking everything right now. Thank you to my partner in crime, Susan, for giving me the double check on this. Always, 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 Susan, you do so much for me. I've learned so much from you, so thank you so much. So what I want to get into again is, trust in the business and personal relationships. And why I say business and personal is because what I believe and what I've experienced myself as it relates to the business relationships is you got to get a little personal in order to get that trust, right? And so oftentimes when we talk about, whoa, you got a business relationship with somebody, the big mistake I think we make is that we don't add a little personal to it. So if you don't have a little personal in those relationships, it's tough to gain that trust as quickly as if you do. I'm going to go through these 7 things tonight to optimize, not the speed, I guess, the speed of trust, I would say, but optimize your ability to have more trust in those business relationships that you have. As an entrepreneur, it's key. And so as you guys are going to be doing business with many people, establishing that trust is a good way. Now, sometimes we don't have very long to establish the trust, so you have to be genuine as well. If you are just trying to, sell things, or if you're trying to get something out of it, it just doesn't go over well. So let me go over the 7 things that I believe are the most important. 2 are kind of a bonus, but there's kind of 5 core that I think you need. Otherwise, you just won't get that trust established. And then I'm going to walk through a little bit of a call to action, what I think you should be doing at the end of this video. And then we can let me know your thoughts as we walk through it. So basically, the first one I would say is, as you're building your trust in your relationships, you have to show a little bit of vulnerability. They want to know, your clients or whoever you're working with wants to know that you're human. It's kind of hard. So you don't have to open up and tell them your life story. That can completely backfire on you. But I think the big thing is, if you don't demonstrate a little bit of vulnerability, it's going to make you seem inhuman and not human. And people are going to have a tough time saying, okay, does this person really relate to me at all? Or what is this person really after? So it demonstrates that when you throw out the vulnerability, that you trust others. It kind of gives that olive branch, so to say, and kind of breaks. I used to work with a guy named Al, and he always talked about, the first pickle out of the jar is always the toughest. And it kind of gets that first pickle out of the jar in this relationship, so the rest of the pickles come easy. I know it's crazy, but I've always thought that saying was nuts, but it actually makes sense to me, because if you've ever bought a big jar of pickles, it's sometimes tough to get that first pickle out of the jar. So anyway, I digress. But if you're not vulnerable, and we are guarded in business relationships, just trust me, because it's tough right away, but you have to show a little bit of vulnerability, and you got to get there sometime. Otherwise, that trust isn't going to come as quickly. The relationship has to be a win-win. So you want to create relationships that are mutually beneficial. Now, as entrepreneurs, we're offering our services and we're trying to help people. And the biggest thing is that for the most part, you shouldn't, and this is really hard when you're starting out, you shouldn't really focus on the money or the result, the testing, what are you getting out of meeting with this client or group of clients. You can't focus on that. And, how is it going to feed my analytics? It's the wrong thing to focus on. If you focus on service and really serving the person, then the win-win situation comes from the feedback you're going to get, as far as whether or not you're able to help that person or work with that person or people or company or nonprofit or whoever you're trying to serve. That's going to get you that win-win situation, because if you truly roll into the business relationship with that servant mindset, good things will always come. You just have to trust and have faith in that. And so if it's really not set up by you to be a win-win, there's not going to be that trust there. And really that mutually beneficial feeling is not going to be there. And that's where people, you hear people talk about car salesmen, or snake oil salesmen or door-to-door salesmen. And you hear sales as this negative connotation. And it's because people that have been sold to, they don't feel like they're going to have a win-win situation, or they don't feel like, that person is actually human. So the top 2, I think, are really, really, really important. Okay. So pickle out of the jar. That's good. Susan, you're going to use that one. I know you will. But the the third thing is radical transparency. This is one that I am huge on. I've been huge on it since day one. And I think it's because of the house I was raised in. We didn't have much, and there wasn't much you could do from a mistake perspective to, otherwise, may hurt the family. And I know that's a little different, but it's how I was raised was, we just helped each other out. And when somebody wasn't carrying their weight, we let them hear about it. We let them know it. So my big thing is if you don't have the radical transparency, you're not going to seem genuine. And it doesn't mean, there's different levels of what I consider radical transparency. And that just means that you're just very straightforward, and you don't really have to read between the lines with you. There's no walking on eggshells, all the different types of sayings you heard to ensure that you're direct but not offensive, right? So when I say radical transparency, it makes people think, well, goodness, I have to be super direct and I'm probably going to hurt feelings. But no, it's honestly just that. It's being direct and stating your purpose, stating what the relationship means to you, what you're here to serve them for, all sorts of things to help you with ensuring that you're going to get that radical transparency back. So the difference between vulnerability and transparency is the human, I think the human perspective of it. So when you're vulnerable, and this question just came up. So when you're vulnerable, you kind of have, a lot of walls up, and I would say the difference is that you let some of the walls down and maybe share some things that maybe a fault, or try to relate to the person on maybe some hard times they've went through, or it's really just ensuring that you're finding a common connection from a vulnerability perspective. Now, the radical transparency side is you directly address issues like anything that's in front of you. You guys are going to talk about and discuss, and that's kind of set up as more on the business side. So the radical transparency is if you're there to serve and you're there to conduct quote unquote what people call transactions or business transactions, it can be a number of different things. And the example that I would use is if you have a commitment, a time commitment, as an entrepreneur, your time is very valuable. And if you have people that you're working with, some may come with you right away, and you set up expectations and they meet those expectations. Radical transparency is setting the expectations ahead of time. And if they don't meet them, conveying to or communicating to them that, hey, this isn't going to work out. And, politely, ending the relationship from a business perspective. And that really is really cool. I don't know who just joined us. Let me see. From a perspective, I'd like to welcome them if they're on. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm just pausing to see who just joined us. I'm not able to tell from this screen, so I apologize. But whoever just joined us, thanks for joining. Where do I see that? Goodness sakes. Yeah, Susan, I'm not very good at figuring out who just joined us. So if you just joined us, if you want to drop a comment in real quick saying that you're here, that would be awesome. Heather, nice. So Heather, thanks for joining. We appreciate it. Susan's one of my good business partners, and always is supportive of me here. So thanks for joining. Yeah. Thanks, Susan. I appreciate it. So, Heather, thanks for being on. Just to recap a little bit, but I'm not going to be able to go all through it because we're already 13 minutes in it. But we're really talking about the trust in business and personal relationships with mainly business. And there's 7 main things, and I got 5 that are the core. And what we've gone through so far is vulnerability. You got to create a win-win relationship, and radical transparency. And what Susan brought up as a question is like the difference between vulnerability and radical transparency. And I just went through the fact that vulnerability is just showing that you're human, finding some relatedness as you work. So for instance, Heather, I know like your knitting business and you selling, I don't know, caps or whatever, socks or whatever else you would sell to folks, just ensuring as you form that relationship that, they know you're human. And radical transparency would be directly addressing that your time is worth, is valuable. It's almost priceless as an entrepreneur. So ensuring you're setting up those expectations, and if the expectations aren't met on both sides, politely, you can end the relationship. So now we are on to honesty. Tell the truth. So the biggest thing this would be in business, honesty is more of just you've established, a little bit of vulnerability. So they know you're human. You've established there's going to be a win-win. So we're in this relationship, and I'm going to be here to serve you, whether it's any organization or people or person that you're going to serve with what you're offering as an entrepreneur. Radical transparency, directly addressing, any issues you may have had. And then honesty is kind of relates up to the radical transparency is like, you have to be honest if you have problems, if you have issues. Let's say I promised to start my live training at 8:30, but I wasn't able to do it. Just be honest and say, hey, you know what? There's been a scheduling conflict, but some people may say, oh, I had technical issues. I wasn't able to get on. So just being honest with situations as it relates to business is honestly, is kind of self-explanatory. There's not a whole lot you can say other than if you use honesty first, that relationship will be always for the most part, trustful. Because if you're honest, if you're transparent, have a little bit of vulnerability in there, then if somebody breaks that honesty, then you can expect that trust is broken. And, you know, business, especially on an entrepreneurial side, will be lost. For instance, in my FBA business, when I would have a product come damaged to the people I was shipping to, or I would get the wrong lot because of some mix-up at the warehouse, you know, I would honestly just apologize and give it to them free. Now, on the other side, was the client honest? You know, sometimes it was a books, you know, during textbook season, and other times it was just, you know, discount, any sort of gadgets or whatever I was selling out of the warehouse. But, you know, I didn't know that the other side was honest 100% of the time due to some of the return policies. But as long as I know that I kept my end of honesty, and it was always that if I made a mistake, I would trust that I made a mistake, I would ensure that I took care of that. And that's kind of what the honesty will do for you. As long as you maintain your honesty and integrity, you'll always be good from your side. And if problem is though, if somebody else breaks that with you, just don't be the person to get taken advantage of. I know that it's hard not to be a super nice person when you are an entrepreneur and you are offering your services, but there is a point in time where it might hurt your reputation as being someone who can be taken advantage of. And by all the people that aren't that good in the world, they will take advantage of that, and it's not a good thing. So make sure that when you're honest, you're also, you know, pretty stern with what your integrity is, and the previous four that we talked about, okay? Patience. Patience is a big one because, like, again, if my live wouldn't have been able to start at 8:30, I would hope that people had patience, but when you're the entrepreneur, it tends to not be on your end. It tends to be on the people that you're serving. Now, you may have had an agreement in place. They may have things happen, and it's easy to get upset with that. But if you are extending the same of the four of the vulnerability, you're in the win-win, you're giving them transparency and honesty, then patience has to come along with that because things happen. Life happens. We all have, you know, children or responsibilities or, you know, other jobs if you're doing things as a side gig, but you have to be flexible with the people you're trying to serve because life happens. If you're too rigid and you don't allow for any flexibility, you're gonna find that it may work for a short amount of time, but word's gonna get out and people aren't gonna do a lot of business with you because if you don't have flexibility, they may, unless you're in a monopoly and they can't go anywhere else, they'll go other places to find your product or your service. So as I go through the first five, I hope that makes a lot of sense. But if you think about it, you can apply it to your personal as well. Now, I'm not going to go through the personal side just because I think the vulnerability, if you're there, and all of this, you know, I can practice this with my kids. You can practice this with a spouse. You can practice this with a significant other. Any sort of these five work. Now, why did I leave the last two? Because I said I would talk to you about 7. Why did I leave the last 2? That's a good one, Susan. I do like that. Assume the best, prepare for the worst, and maintain integrity always. I believe that fully. So when we talk about the last 2, these are kind of my bonuses. So I like these as your core 5, just because I believe you need that. The end one, patience, you could always say, we could put it in the kind of bonus, or that's extra, but I don't think it is. I think if you don't have that patience as one of your core 5, then you're in trouble. Next one is be timely. We've all worked with that group, that person, that company, that just for some reason, regardless of how you do it, how much lead time you give them, they just take a lot of time. And over time, even if they have a really good product, a really good service, you'll tend to look for someone else, or competition will come along and be more timely than you will. So just remember, like, the timely thing can sneak up and get you if you're not timely, because your time, especially as an entrepreneur, is worth a ton. But your clients and the people that you work with, their time is worth a lot as well. So treat their time like your time, and ensure that you aren't wasting it, and ensure that you are prepared and have every bit of that planned out when you're helping them. And the last one is deliver the unexpected. This is a huge one. So this is what separates you from the rest of the pack. So I always say under promise, over deliver. To me, that is huge. If you can separate yourself based on your service level, it doesn't mean you have to give away freebies. It doesn't mean you have to give things away or give things away for free, because honestly, when you look at some of the studies that look at left of free things compared to where people actually have to pay, people actually value the things they have to put a little coin, little skin in the game for more than things they get free. Free stuff just isn't valued as highly. So delivering the unexpected would be, I'm not talking about handing out freebies. I'm talking about ensuring that whatever was promised, there's an extra notch, there's an extra level of deliverer when it comes to that. So whether that is, getting it there before you promised, referrals is a big thing here. If you know, as you're uncovering things through your services, that they do have other gaps, referring them to somebody you trust for other business, that's a huge one as far as delivering the unexpected. That one actually is my main one, is referrals, because it goes two ways. It actually goes with the win-win, and it actually goes with delivering the unexpected. If you are uncovering things that your clients need during the time you're meeting with them, that's above and beyond the services that you offer, giving referrals to go get their quote-unquote problems or gaps in what they need taken care of is huge. It shows, A, that you're not just there for yourself, and B, you actually care about them more than just your individual transaction. That also rolls into vulnerability. So do you kind of see how this is playing together a little bit all? But honestly, if you cut out the be timely and deliver the unexpected, this is, I believe, the minimum. And you're gonna get some business. You're gonna do okay, but you're not gonna be the best. If you treat people's time like your time, and you go above and beyond to ensure that not just what they have with you is taken care of, but even beyond some of that, I think what you'll find is great results and great trust and repeat customers. So that was, kind of the 7. Is there any questions? I'm going to go to the comments here to see if there's any question. Before I end, I have one thing that I want to end with, a little call to action, but one I wanted to give you guys. So I don't see any other comments. Thanks a lot for that. But I didn't have it close enough to me. Sorry, I'm out of frame. But one book I would recommend, and this is good for both business and it's good for personal. It's The Speed of Trust by Dr. Stephen Covey. And this was one of the first books that I ever got recommended to me by one of my senior directors. And it really hit home with me. And it is a decent read. But this is one that you could definitely get on audiobooks as well. And I should have an affiliate link here for it, but I don't as an entrepreneur, so I will start to do that in the end. But really what I would say is, if you haven't already, pick up a copy of The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. I mean, he's passed away a little bit ago, but his work, this one especially, is going to live on. This has totally helped me as far as my relationship in both business and personal. So get a copy if you haven't. And then lastly is, if you need additional help with anything you're thinking about as it relates to picking up the book, reading about the trust, or as it relates to getting yourself started or even further into your entrepreneurial journey, I do have a link to book a call with me, and let's talk about what maybe issues you're facing. Let's talk about any other things you might be interested in, because I can give you my journey and tell you where I'm at. And as a group of working professionals that are trying to get away from that corporate grind, I want to share with you my methods and see if I can be of any help. So it's in the welcome post, and if you need me to send it to you, I can. Otherwise, we can communicate through instant message. Any other sort of communication is fine. But first of all, get that book. Make sure that you get it on audio, or just get the book and get through it. I think you'll find a lot of these things are contained in it, and it will help you as far as building your business from a relationship status as it relates to just based on trust and good business practices. And secondly, I'd love to help you out and either continue, enhance, or improve your business situation. Schedule a call with me. I have times pretty much in the evening all the time, and sometimes during the day. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's session. And let me see. I do not believe there are any other comments. Anything else that I can help you guys with? All right, Heather, thanks so much. And Susan, I appreciate all the help as well. Heather, take care. If you need anything, like I said, book a call. I have the link in the welcome post that you should have been tagged with. Otherwise, just message me or comment on in the group, and I will get those details to you. So hopefully you guys have a good rest of your night, and thanks so much for attending the live, and look forward to talking to you guys next week.